Next up is quite an exciting company who's been working with lots of big brands across the globe. And I just gotta love the title that Femke has. She's a business humanizer. Isn't that a nice title to have on your business card? A business humanizer. So to talk a little bit more about the topic of not just taking but brands and givers, I want to introduce Christophe and Femke from Innate Motion. So give them a big round of applause, please.
Are we? Yeah, we on. Thank you for inviting us. I will introduce Femke, a business humanizer, and we started this company about 10 years ago. But the topic, and maybe you can introduce me.
My friend and business partner. We started the company together 10 years ago, and Christophe is also first and foremost a business humanizer.
Absolutely. So the topic that we want to talk about, and we're very glad to have seen Unilever just in front of us talk a lot about what we'll be talking about. But basically, is takers cannot build purpose brands, only givers can. Now, who here, raise your hand, who wants to build a purpose brand? Do you want to? Yeah, yes. Yeah, there's some people, but these are simple answers. If you want to do that, you have to focus on enabling the giver mindset and design for contribution. Very simple. That's what you need to do. If you want to build an organization that becomes community-centered or customer-centered, what do you have to do? Focus on building a giver mindset and design for contribution. If you want to accelerate your sustainability agenda, are there people here who want to drive a sustainability agenda? Nobody? Yes, there are some. Guess what? We are very predictable. The only thing we can say is focus on enabling the giver mindset and design for contribution. The purpose movements can only fly, really, when their builders do adopt a giver mindset and design for contribution. So when about 7 years ago, that's a Unilever, and in this case it was a good friend, Marc Mathieu, came to Innate Motion and said, man, we've got this really tough challenge of doubling our turnover and halving our footprint, and how the heck are we going to translate this into marketing practices? Because at that time, he's now at Samsung, but at that time he was leading the crafting brands for life purposes. And, what we said at that time with him is obviously we have to humanize Unilever. And it requires that the giver mindset can drive a lot of change. That's the good news. So how can we build in the marketing processes a giver mindset? But here's the bad news. It's not easy in people, or it's not easy to get people in business to adopt a giver mindset. And what we're going to be focusing now on the next 10 minutes or 20 minutes is how do you actually, because we're psychologists, we are not, we know creativity drives ideas, but change is driven by behavior. So we had to go out and design with Unilever, with other companies, how do you build processes that enable the giver mindset? And we have a tool, and I'll let Femke tell that tool.
Yeah,
I've got do you want this?
Oh, it's okay. I'll tell you when to click. All right. So adopting the giver mindset, I guess this is important to all of us, right? We're here together as a group of people who wants to use business as a source of good, or as some of the people were saying before, use business as a tool to make society better and to make the world a better place for all of us. So we're all here in a way with the same mindset. This is not an audience of takers, right? This is an audience of people who are innately givers. But what we all want is to make business even more giving, to make that giver mindset even stronger, right? And enable more of that. What we will do today is take you through 6 influencing strategies that we have decoded from a lot of work in these years that can help you to make that giver mindset even bigger in business. Yeah, because as Christophe was saying, this is not an easy thing. In business, it's not always automatic, right? What you see here looks a little bit complicated, but we'll take you through each of the 6 influencing strategies with some examples so that you can hopefully take something of it and bring it in practice in your own business lives. Basically, how it works is that if you want people to adopt any kind of behavior or any kind of mindset, there are 2 big levers. On the one side, people need to feel motivated. So they need to want to do it, right? It needs to be aspirational for them, as the guys and ladies were saying before. And then it needs to be easy. There's many things we can do to make it easy for people. In this case, we will show you how we can activate that giver mindset on a personal, social, and structural level through these 2 big levers.
All right. So, is anybody here from a production environment? Well, very often when you go to a production environment, when you want to get people to take on a habit of quality, how do you get everybody behind that? Because, you know, it's a corporate goal, quality. It's not a people goal. Is to get people to adopt better quality behavior, you focus on safety. And if you focus on safety, all of a sudden, the quality goes up. In purpose building, it's pretty much the same thing. If you focus on getting everybody to focus on contribution and a giver mindset, and it means, you know, there's 2 ways to win in business. You can win by taking, or you can win by giving. Some people think you can't win by giving, but reality is giving is a very successful strategy to win. So if you want to build purpose, our fine is keep looking on the giver mindset. So the first thing is, how do you make it, and the people spoke about it very clearly, how do you make it personally relevant? Because purpose is a human thing. It's not a corporate thing. How do you get people to put fire behind what they are doing? And, you know, people are motivated to take on a giver mindset when they can humanize the people they serve. You know, one of the simplest things that we had to do in diverse companies, but also in Unilever, is who are the people we serve? Putting people first was the first step. Speak about them as people, not just as consumers. Learn to label for love, because many companies actually label their consumers as a target. And once you do that, you can relate to them, and then stand up for a better fiction, for a better world, a better story to do it. And here's a great example of the
Counselors?
Counselors? Let's be honest here. $20 million is more money than these people have ever dreamed of.
Oh, see, now that pisses me off. First of all, since the demur, we have more than 400 plaintiffs in. Let's be honest, we all know there are more out there. They may not be the most sophisticated people, but they do know how to divide, and $20 million isn't shit when you split it between them.
Aaron.
Second of all, these people don't dream about being rich. They dream about being able to watch their kids swim in a pool without worrying that they'll have to have a hysterectomy at the age of 20. like Rosa Diaz, a client of ours, or have their spine deteriorate like Stan Bloom, another client of ours. So before you come back here with another lame-ass offer, I want you to think real hard about what your spine is worth, Mr. Walker. Or what you might expect someone to pay you for your uterus, Miss Sanchez. Then you take out your calculator and you multiply that number by 100. Anything less than that is a waste of our time. By the way, we had that water brought in special for you folks. Came from Well and Hinckley.
I think this meeting is over.
Damn right it is.
So, you get that one.
On the other side, it's about making it easy for people, right? Enabling them with tools. So people will be individually enabled to take on that giver mindset when they can learn to create value people to people, playing together, and understand the contribution capacities in others. The next video, and we'll play only a short piece because we don't have much time, shows you how we can work with people in business and make them live experiences that make them more empathetic. Because when we are more empathetic to the people around us and we understand them better, it is much easier for us to develop solutions.
So it's a piece called People. It's a film about people emotions. It's not research. It's unlocking the giver mindset.
Exactly.
All right.
So the audio is not working here, I
In
guess.
the midst of, crime, gangs, drugs, she was incredibly positive.
And it was very different to the normal consumer visits that I've done before, in the sense that I normally kind of stampede towards the fridge, open it and see what's inside it. I was with her for a good 2 hours before we got anywhere near the refrigerator.
Whether in work or not, I kind of look back and I think of her because I think it's a fantastic attitude. I take it with me wherever I go.
I felt like the consumer just switched and we started really understanding about her life. I think if we'd have done a standard consumer connection, we would have never even touched the surface of some of these issues.
And then she said, oh, why don't you stay with me? We can hang out. And for me, it felt so natural instead of looking at her from like a marketeer's lens.
We all realized that, small everyday pleasures were important to people, even when they had some of big challenges around, family issues, illness, whatever.
So, you get that. But the idea is you humanize the consumer, but you also humanize the strategist.
Exactly. This is another, this is an application that you can use afterwards if you like. Sometimes it's to feel more motivated or more inspired to adopt your giver strategies. It's interesting to know what kind of giver you are, because there's many different ways we give, right? Sometimes we give to protect and to pamper people. Sometimes we give to build bridges. Sometimes we give to explore possibilities. This is a tool, a very simple application that you can play on your phone that will tell you what kind of giver you are. And that's another way to basically get closer to applying it.
All right. So now we've done the personal level. Let's go and look at the social level. So at the social level is to adopt the giver mindset by harnessing the influence of others. Now, it might surprise you that there's a reason why companies do sustainability purpose. It's got a lot to do with peer pressure. And sometimes that peer pressure can come from very diverse ways. The first speaker this morning said it's the customer who demands it. What we have to do is understand what models can we use out there to enable that giver mindset for inspiration. And what we have found is, and we wrote a little book about it, which you can download, and it's for free, but it's about activists can be a great source of inspirations. They are givers. When we started the Crafting Brands for Life process, what did we do? We went to Port Sunlight with the Unilever team. Why? Because normally founders are givers. And it's good, you know, most companies that have grown into something, the founders were great givers. You know, Lord Lever was a great giver. Pullman is also a great giver. But activists are great givers. So a great influencing strategy is don't go and ask necessarily the young. You can go and ask the young because they have adopted the giver mindset quite well. But go outside the company and look for a giver mindset. And, you know, you can put peer pressure within a whole system. Has anybody heard of a company called Tony Chocolonely? You have. Fantastic company. But what have they done? They've basically put peer pressure on the whole industry, saying we do 100% slave-free chocolate. And their vision, or their own vision, is obviously making chocolate which is 100% slave-free. But their vision is to try and influence the whole industry to do so. And that's also peer pressure. And the last one, some will know this person, is Marc Mathieu. He's quite well known within the sustainability community. But when we have to go back 7 years, and when at that time Crafting Brands for Life started, it was very difficult, especially for those who want to influence their company to adopt a sustainability agenda, to get the people inside to adopt it. So Mark actually, and Paul, they went out and they started talking to the media and started getting the people outside the company to speak about this ambition and talk about how great it is. And the more people outside the company adopted it, the more people inside the company were ready to adopt it. Because it's scary. But if everybody outside and your customers are all talking about it, so that's a way to influence.
Yeah, from an enabling perspective, from a social enabling perspective, and this was mentioned before by a few other speakers as well, it is very vital to focus on ecosystems of support rather than battlegrounds of competition. Sometimes when you, or often when you try to align with social rituals or cultural rituals that already exist, where people naturally help each other, where people naturally encourage each other, you can be much more successful. In the next example, you find
We live in a world where we are more social than ever. Technology has empowered us to express our opinions freely. Like, share, and even inspire actions. In fact, each one of us is more powerful than we think. And Lipton wanted to remind people of this. So during the holy month of Ramadan, it set out to demonstrate that it doesn't take much to do a good deed. Just the amount of time it takes to brew a great tasting cup of Lipton tea. 1 minute. The movement started with #AMinuteOfGoodness, where people had to inspire each other by doing a good deed, and every positive action translated into a minute of goodness. And they did. We wanted to target 1 million minutes of goodness during Ramadan, and we are well on our way to achieving more than double our ambition by inspiring 2.5 million minutes of goodness. As the world became a better place, one deed at a time, people inspired each other not only to think, but also to do. Together, we had demonstrated that it's so simple to do a good deed.
All right, just to save some time. The last level is what some would call the systemic or the structural side of things. And, you know, one of the big gifts that we got as sustainability practitioners has been, you know, getting new goals, new points of recognitions, you know, and getting goals that are more inclusive. And I'll be short on that. You know, we've spoken quite a bit on the UN goals. So what's the benefit of a UN goal? It is one of the first systems where private companies and public companies could align. They had a goal. They could together work on something. And by having those goals, the sense of giving, the sense of collaboration was strongly motivated by that. So I'll skip and go to the
Yes, lastly, another actually good news and a good thing of this time is that we operate in more open and transparent environments naturally. We have a whole new generation that's actually growing up in a much more transparent world thanks to social media. And this helps because it makes us see more so we can mirror ourselves and also inspire each other for different kinds of behavior. So that's another.
Yeah, I was a bit slow with the button here.
Yeah.
All right. And as a closer, you know, the key conclusion is that without getting people to adopt a giver mindset, you have to make it a habit. It's very hard to grow a purpose. And the good news is with the right influencing strategies, and it's not just one, you have to be systematic about it, you can get that giver mindset even in business. And to close, here is one film.
Short was an asshole. Everyone in his small town knew it. It wasn't that he tried particularly hard to be unpleasant. It just seemed to come naturally to him. Coleman felt like the whole world owed him something, which caused him to regularly ignore the rules of a decent, acceptable society.
Wow. Really?
And he hated anything that got in his way.
Go, you got it! You got it, go! Go, go, you can do it!
And small animals. Even to children, he was an asshole. He was, as they say, born to it. But then, the strangest thing happened.
$3.
Something entirely unexpected. Coleman Sweeney died. A brain aneurysm. Well, subarachnoid hemorrhage to be more specific. And it came as he argued over whether extra fries should be included in a $1.99 early bird breakfast, which was a typical Coleman Sweeney play. It was then that Sarah found something completely unexpected. Coleman Sweeney had registered to be an organ donor. Nobody knew what caused Coleman to do it, but there it was, generous and majestic. And that was the day that Coleman went from asshole to hero. You see, his liver went to Stan, a father of 2. His heart went to Miranda Morgan, who went on to teach for 25 more years. And his tendons went to Staff Sergeant Donahue, who was able to walk again and would never need to be pushed across the street by his physical therapist. And in a moment of small world irony, his corneas went to his 82-year-old next-door neighbor so that she could finally see the crap that her dog made in the side yard and pick it up. Yes, in life, Coleman was a bona fide asshole. 365 days a year, 24/7.
Hey, baby!
But in death, well, let's just raise our middle fingers and shout, up yours, Coleman Sweeney. You're not an asshole anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you.